My mother shamed my boyfriend at her charity event for being cheap, not knowing he had just donated $10,000. Ever since I was young, my mother has demanded I marry a rich man who's able to retire not only me, but her as well. Well, last year I met my boyfriend, and he comes from a very wealthy family. You'd assume my mother loved him, but you'd be wrong, because she has no idea that he's rich. You see, despite being a millionaire, my boyfriend works a 9 to 5 because he hates having money at his fingertips, and only accesses his wealth for big-time emergencies. He wears thrift store clothes, doesn't bother with grooming himself, and honestly looks closer to a homeless guy than a millionaire. Funnily enough, this is exactly why I love him. My mother, on the other hand, hates him. The first time she ever saw him, she pulled me aside to ask me why I was with this junkie. I told her it's because I loved him, but she scoffed, saying that our family can't have someone so low-class ruining our image. She pestered me to break up with him at first, but when she saw this didn't deter me, she changed tactics, thinking that if she just insulted him enough, he'd no longer find dating me worth it. She tried everything she could. She called him homeless in front of my whole family. She edited him out of every picture she took, and to this day she refuses to invite him for dinner because she won't cook for people like him. The entire time I kept asking him why he wasn't telling her who he really was, and he said it's because my mother has an ugly, black, and rotten heart. He said that if he told her the truth, she'd do nothing but demand for his money, and that would be worse than what he endures now. Fast forward to last weekend. My mother helps run a small charity that raises money for stray dogs, which sounds great, except she only does it for attention, and hasn't donated a dime in the last year. I know so because she's told me herself. The only thing she does is organize the events. Anyway, the event was at this extremely fancy hotel, and when my boyfriend and I showed up, I could see my mom get visibly frustrated. She walked over to him and started demanding he leaves. She started whisper yelling at us both, calling him a beggar and telling me I've disgraced our family by bringing human waste to her event. She proceeded to call over the security guard, and he started leading us both out. I tried protesting, but my mom wouldn't listen, and told me that if I ever brought my hobo boyfriend to something like this ever again, she wouldn't hesitate to cut me off. Many heads turned towards us at that moment, and literally every single person told us to just go in peace and stop causing a scene. I was embarrassed as we were escorted out, and this was the first time in my relationship I saw my boyfriend get genuinely angry. I began apologizing to him, but he reassured me that none of this was my fault, before taking out his phone and making a call. A few minutes later, the same security guard came back out, and looking quite embarrassed, asked us to come back in. When we did, the entire room was quiet and looking at my boyfriend, and my mom was beet red. Next thing I knew, my boyfriend was being called up to center stage to give a speech as the year's top donor. I had no idea what was happening until he started speaking. As it turns out, he had enough of my mom. So much so, in fact, that when we were escorted out, he called his accountant and told him to donate $10,000 right away. He knew this charity was small, so a donation this big would make waves instantly, and because his name was on the official list, he knew he would end up on stage for a speech. After explaining all of that, he went on to say that the reason he wanted to get up and talk to everyone was so he could talk a little about my mom. Everyone turned to look at her, and her legs started to shake and she began nearly doubling over. All she could do was muster up the fakest smile, and as soon my boyfriend started speaking, she froze in place. Because instead of ruining her entire life like he could have, my boyfriend started singing her praises. He lied and talked about how great of a person she was, and how kind of a soul she was for accepting him into their family. By the end, everyone was applauding my mom, and he invited her up on stage to talk about this charity and get a picture with him, a picture he'd be proud to post online. Watching my mother die inside, realizing what she had done and who my boyfriend was priceless. My boyfriend and I could see just how uncomfortable she was the entire time, and kept laughing about it. But then the night ended, and it turned out my mom hadn't learned anything. She came up to us, acting lovey-dovey. No apology, no heart-to-heart, just a simple question about how much money my boyfriend actually had in his bank account. I expected him to have some sort of look when she asked this, but instead he just stood there smiling. And though I didn't know why at the time, what he did next made me realize that some things, money really just can't buy. The rest of the full story is on my channel and linked below.